Hey, this is Liam Bowler and the latest version of Dynamic Alignment Bodywork here at my home office in Missoula, Montana. And I haven't made videos in a while, but I want to do, I think, a few on my latest findings in a topic that is very near and dear to my heart, and that is shoulder tension. And there's a few different ways to talk about how that expresses, from feeling like you carry your tension up in your shoulders, like this motion that, if you sit at a desk a lot, that can be a pretty easy pattern to have happen. Or if you're an athlete who's working with like overhead mobility, an overhead squats, or even something like tennis in a serve, to help your shoulder girdle stay open from hand to heart, from hand to trunk. And this can be a pretty common circuit breaker point. If we think about ourselves like running a lot of voltage, if there's a circuit breaker here, this is often one of the first places and most intense places that tension and overuse kind of pain can go. So the first thing I'd like to share, which feels maybe the most fundamental for me, is opening up and allowing more mobility. You can think about mobility as kind of flexibility plus strength and power in your chest and back, the thoracic spine, mid-back, to allow the shoulder girdle as a whole, so the two joints of the shoulders, but really the whole thing as it sits down to your hands, to allow that to relax more. And relax both as like, oh, I'm sitting here relaxed, and especially in movement, the relax of kind of the ease of energy transfer from, again, trunk to hands and hands back through the shoulders. So the activity that I'll propose for you is a kind of spinal undulation. And it takes some, like a lot of the activities that I propose, kind of a watchful eye, because there's a couple ways to do it. So the movement is basically, and I'll show from the side in a minute, but being able to articulate the vertebra of your spine. It doesn't have to be in a wave-like motion, but I think that's the easiest kind of way to get a feel for it, the sort of fluid ripple of movement through. And what you're going to do, or what I propose you do, when you're doing this exercise, is be on guard for this very common phenomenon of the extrinsics, the outermost musculature, which in this case is best expressed as the shoulders, to take over. So, doing the movement, when I think about just from the spine, and if my shoulders and head and neck are sort of, well, the neck's involved, but my shoulders especially are sort of riding this like a ship on a wave. So that might look something like this, where I'm, tucking in here to start, and then like allowing this to ripple up. This has taken me a lot of practice to kind of have this fluidity. It might come to you very naturally. Being on the lookout for, can you see the difference, right? Where it's the same gist of it, but the second one is more like my shoulders are kind of driving the ship. And for this, that often happens to make up for a lack of awareness or agility. I mean, kind of being one and the same thing in this part of the spine and the chest. So, and there might be a part where like here it feels easy, but then I sort of lose contact with my spine, so my shoulders kind of take over and start driving the shell of the thing. So I suggest starting out gently with less movement, and you can go both ways, but I'll show from the side here. So the movement is this, doing these sort of spinal waves where my sort of solar plexus leads, and then hopefully in a continuous, almost like serpentine motion. And being watchful for this thing where the shoulders are kind of driving, where I get my chest forward, seemingly by pulling my shoulders back. So I want to release that and see if I can access more and more my chest and spine, really front and back of the same thing, right? My torso, being able to move. One way is probably easier for you, like that way is easier for me than the reverse, where I'd start with more of a chin tuck here, And again, I can sometimes even feel like tension in my hands, like something wanting to take over and sort of like, oh, here we go. Like move the ship. So again, letting this release. And this is the kind of exercise where you can play with this all the time on the dance floor or at a bus stop. But probably best in my experience in sort of small doses, but where your intensity and concentration are really, really with it. Because again, it sort of takes that watchful eye to where the movement is coming from is really what it's about. So 30 seconds of like quality attention as best you can on doing this movement would be better than, in my opinion, like 5 minutes of just like not really sure what you're doing. And those little metered doses can be really good medicine. So that's the first part of shoulder opening, and that allows, again, the shoulder and extrinsics to relax and starting to get more mobility in a way that comes from your nervous system being like, oh, we're online. And so, of course, this can relax, as opposed to trying to stretch, but it's not, the shoulder girdle doesn't know where it can land. So, of course, there's tension here. If it feels like you're hovering above a seat, or like a, child who's always under the, maybe like a really stern parent, right? The sort of, I don't know where to relax, as opposed to that child having a really safe place to be. Tends to be a lot more easy and fluid. So one and the same thing, but starting with that inner line and allowing that mobility to move out. So have fun with that. Let me know how it goes. Shoot me any questions, as always, either on the YouTube channel or my Facebook page or whatever you'd like. And I have a few more of those things that I'll release over the next week or two.